Hello viewers and welcome to yet another commentated match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today I'm pleased to present another Planetfall cycle preview video in which we're going to be seeing our recently spoiled warlord from our 6th and final Planetfall war pack, Talyesin Fharenal. Her premise is that she essentially augments any psychers and or warriors that happen to be sitting at her planet. She's going to be piloted in this video by Guy Lev, and we're also going to see Travis, I Fight Dragons, playing our tried and true Commander Shadowsun. It looks as though Travis decided to mulligan his opening hand, and Guy has decided to stick with what he's got. So I see a new signature unit in his hand here, and he's got some, tried and true, reliable Eldar options. We've got Gift of Isha, which is an incredible combat trick, Bealtan Guardians, and Incubus Warriors, so for some stellar early game command. And we've got a Warlock Destructor here being put out to the first planet, and important to note in this video is that this has the Psyker trait. So the way that Talyesin basically functions is each unit at her planet with either the Psyker or Warrior trait gets an additional HP. So if she goes to planet number 1, the Warlock Destructor is going to be at 5 hit points, and then as soon as you control a Psyker and Warrior at the same planet, any units at that planet with either of those traits get +1 attack, which would make the Warlock Destructor a 4/5. So, a couple different plays here on Travis's side. We see a copy of the Ambush platform having been put out into play in his HQ. He's got a couple of copies of gun drones in his hand, which is incredibly menacing, especially in conjunction with this Tactical Squad Cardenas here. That could just be absolutely incredibly nasty. And then we also see a copy of the Earthcast Technician put out to planet number 4. But we happen to see a new signature army unit, Talyesin Spiders, put out to planet number 4 opposite that Earthcast Technician and tying it in regard to command. This is a warrior trait unit. It's one of 2 copies in total of this card in Talyesin's deck. Her other 2 signature army units happen to be a Psyker trait unit, but the way that these function is once you declare a Psyker as an attacker, like this Warlock Destructor at planet number 1, you can simply move these spiders to that planet, and if that happens, then that would be that Psyker gaining an additional +1 attack and +1 hit point because of the presence there of these spiders. So, just a fantastic bit of versatility, and of course, since that's during the combat phase, Talyesin Spiders can contribute during the command phase and then relocate itself during combat once things aren't as big of a deal. We see a copy of Fireblade Kyvray put out to planet number 2. That's got 2 command icons. It's now opposite an Incubus Warrior, which is going to tie it for command, and that's just going to afford our Tau player Travis an option to kind of augment the value of any shield cards he ends up playing. So in assessing the remainder of Talyesin's hand, she's got a copy of Archon's Terror, which is probably going to be critically important because she's fairly squishy as a 2/6, and we even see Inquisitor Caius Roth, which is a very interesting inclusion because he does happen to be a Psyker, so alongside a Warrior, he would be a 4/6 in the presence of Talyesin. A Recon drone touches down at planet number 3. That's potentially going to be another couple of cards there for Travis, and now let's just kind of see how the remainder of our deploy phase breaks down. Both of our players have 1 resource and 4 cards. In assessing our opening layout of planets, planet number 1 is going to be Yavvarn. Its battle ability is to allow both players to put a unit into play into their HQ. Planet number 2 is going to be Elowith, which affords players the opportunity to tutor the top 3 cards of their deck for any 1 card that they'd like. Planet number 3 is going to be Barlas, the random card discard planet. Planet number 4 is Taurus, which rewards players for keeping their unit count lower than that of their opponent with either 3 cards or 3 resources. Note that we see Travis pass at this point, and planet number 5 is going to be Iridial, the healing planet. We saw that Bealtan Guardians touchdown on planet number 4, and that's quite likely going to allow it to beat this Earthcast Technician here. So, in regard to Commander Shadowsun's reaction, I'm not seeing any eligible attachments in her hand, just because these gun drones count as army units that can be deployed as attachments, like through ambush platforms, so it's looking as though Commander Shadowsun is probably going to forego the battle here at Yavvarn. Note that the Taliesin spiders could relocate to this planet, and because that happens the instant that this Psyker would be declared as an attacker, I believe if Taliesin was at that planet, the Warlock Destructor would attack with her boost. So it would be potentially attacking for 4. So I don't imagine that Taliesin is going to be going to planet number 1, but where exactly might she end up going? Looks as though both of our players are going to end up sending their warlords to planet number 2. That's going to be a big tie in regard to command. So command at planet number 1 and... okay. Looks as though there was actually a little bit of a mistake there. So Guy sent his character to the wrong planet, and boy, did that ever stop me dead in my tracks. But in any case, so Taliesin is going to end up tying command with Shadowsun at planet number 2. That recon drones is going to capture command at planet number 3, and planet number 4 is going to end up going to our Taliesin player. So that's going to be a grand total of 2 cards, no resources for Travis, 1 card, and 2 resources for Guy. Guy got a second copy of Gift of Isha, and that could allow him a potentially pretty significant opportunity to just, recur the bejesus out of his different units. And if this Warlock Destructor ends up being discarded, he could be a little bit tricky and just kind of recur this back into play. Presuming he does win the battle here at Yavvarn, he could easily capture that planet, he could capture Barlas, and then Taurus, then that'll be 3 green strongpoint icons. But let's see what exactly our Tau player can try to do. Very, very good move here. This is going to be an Inquisitor Caius Roth put into play by Yavvarn's trigger, so that's going to basically let players, both pick 1 unit to put into play, and as soon as Inquisitor Caius Roth ends up being played, that's going to be both players discarding down to 4 cards in hand. Of course, that's going to hurt our Tau player a little bit more than it will glaiveguy, so he's going to basically get a potentially 4/6 unit into play for free, and that is a pretty fantastic effect. Looks as though we did see a copy of Pathfinder She or Race put into play into our Tau player's HQ. You can discard an attachment from that unit to ready it, and Ambush Platform just allowed Travis to play a gun drones affixed to Fireblade Kyvray for the cost of a mere 1 resource. So the initiative token is going to be in Travis's hand, and he's going to take that opportunity to do an area effect 2 volley with the Fireblade. So interestingly here we see Gift of Isha discarded as a shield card. Taliesin herself ended up taking 2 points of damage. Note, of course, that Iridial is one of our extant planets sitting out here in the Traxxas sector, and let's see how exactly glaiveguy is going to respond in kind. He's got an Archon's Terror, but it cannot target unique units, and he's got another copy of Gift of Isha here. So it's all going to be up to Taliesin. In regard to just combat tricks, there's a 1 shield icon card in our Tau player's hand, but it would count as 2 shields because of Fireblade Kyvray's interrupt. So it's going to be that Incubus Warrior, exhausting to take a swing, and is it going to be against Shadowsun or Kyvray? How is this going to go down? Looks as though it's going to be against Fireblade Kyvray, and will we see that Ion Rifle discarded as shields with which to protect the gun drones and that unique unit? Something that kind of sucks is if we do see that card discarded as shields, Taliesin is still going to be able to end up killing that copy of the Fireblade, at least with our knowledge of what's sitting in both players' hands anyways. But we'll have to see whether or not Guy decides that's a bit of a gamble worth taking. All right, so after a bit of a pause, we do finally see Fireblade Kyvray killed, and that's going to be a discarded copy of Gun Drones as well. So Commander Shadowsun is going to take a swing at that Incubus Warrior. Is she going to end up killing that unit? Will we see the Archon's Terror or Gift of Isha discarded as shields? Elowith is going to be on the line. Certainly that Incubus Warrior is going to be able to deal out a tremendous amount of damage, potentially, but Commander Shadowsun might want to just be a little bit risky and, keep pressing the attack, were Guy to have shielded, just because she could maybe have gone to Iridial next turn, but now she's got Pathfinder She Orace to look after. But, the decision was made much easier there for Travis, because Shadowsun does manage to kill the Incubus Warrior. That's going to be Taliesin taking a couple points of damage worth of a swing at Commander Shadowsun. She's going to end up taking 2 points, and it's looking as though Commander Shadowsun is begrudgingly going to have to give up this planet, and that's going to be an ability won here by Taliesin. Something definitely interesting to note is that it's the first round of the game. We already see 3 different Psykers in play, which is ridiculous. Something that's really going to hold Taliesin back, I believe, until we finally get to our 6th and final war pack, is that there aren't very many Psykers at this point. There are plenty of warriors like this Bealtan Guardians, but for the moment, there's just a bit of a dearth of Psykers. But it looks as though Commander Shadowsun does decide to retreat. That's going to be Elowith, affording Guy here the opportunity to tutor the top 3 cards of his deck. He's only got 2 cards in hand, and therefore it's going to be of the paramount importance that he does have the opportunity to do this. Alright, so my sincerest apologies for a little bit of a mistake there, but we've already happened to have made an error in this video. Taliesin, of course, has printed upon her card, each unit you control at this planet with the warrior trait gets +1 HP, therefore the Incubus Warrior is not actually dead yet. Once the battle is concluded, once Taliesin bounces back to the HQ, then the Incubus Warrior is actually going to end up being destroyed, but not before. Something very interesting here is once we do see Elowith successfully triggered, that's going to be a copy of the signature support for Talyesin Fharenal added to Guy's hand. So this is going to be basically just a 1-cost card, headquarters action. You exhaust it, you pick either Psyker or Warrior, then you look at the top 3 cards of your deck for a unit with the chosen trait, you show it to your opponent and add it to your hand, and then put the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. So definitely not bad, and considering you're going to be wanting both Psykers and Warriors in play, you can kind of look for whatever it is that you need more desperately. But we see an HQ phase come and go. That's going to be 2 cards and 4 resources for each of our players. The Warlock Destructor is played for, so it's paid for, so it is going to stay in play. We see that Wisdom of the Serpent touchdown in Guy's HQ. In regard to command, we see a No Mercy for Travis, which is actually relatively useful considering that Commander Shadowsun is unique. She'll be able to augment Pathfinder She Orace with myriad different units like gun drones, or like the Shadowsun Stealth Cadre that's in her discard pile, or like this Ion Rifle, and Shadowsun could easily, like, let's see, Pathfinder is currently a 6/3, the Stealth Cadre could make it an 8/5, and then No Mercy could result in a guaranteed bloodying of Talyesin Fharenal. And just as with any of our different warlords, we've all agreed that should a unit end up being bloodied, should a warlord end up being bloodied, they're all printed 2/5s without abilities. But for Guy, we ended up seeing a copy of the Bealtan Guardians put out to our new planet number 5, that's Atrox Prime, and that's going to allow him to likely win command at that planet. We see yet another area effect unit touch down on planet number 2, so that's going to be able to shore up Barlas, and that's potentially going to block off a victory condition here for our Eldar players. So at present, Guy has 1 planet type icon of each kind. He could win at Taurus if he takes Barlas, or otherwise he'd have to do something like win Elowith and then win Iridial. We see Void Pirate touchdown on planet number 4 for Travis, and just in assessing Guy's hand, going into combat, he's going to have Archon's Terror, which is going to do absolutely nothing against our Pathfinder, and he's got Empower, which is going to be great for shields or for further augmenting any of his present units, and then he's also got a Gift of Isha, but I don't believe he actually has, there are no Eldar faction cards in his discard pile as of yet. So we've got this gun drones that could be ambush platformed into play onto this tactical squad Cardenas, and then it could do area effect 3, but that certainly is an eligible target here for the gun drones. So in regard to where our players are going to be sending their characters, note that Wisdom of the Serpent here isn't going to be usable until HQ, and looks as though both of our players are going to go to planet number 2, so Commander Shadowsun is going to press the attack, and things are going to potentially end badly here for Talyesin. So Talyesin actually has the initiative, but let's see, this is going to be Commander Shadowsun augmenting Pathfinder to a total of an 8/5. It could ditch one of these attachments in order to ready itself, but what exactly will it get rid of? It's got that ion rifle, and then it's got that copy of Shadowsun's stealth cadre. I believe that is still affixed. Yeah, it's just a little bit difficult to see there. Guy is going to end up winning 2 cards and 2 resources relative to Travis's 4 cards and no resources. But let's see how combat is going to unwind. I'm just going to take a moment to remind our players that bloodied warlords are 2/5s without abilities. And there we go. So let's see how combat breaks down. Once again, the initiative is going to be in the hands of Talyesin, and will she opt to retreat? How is this going to just resolve? So Talyesin can basically use her combat action to run away, because otherwise, let's say Pathfinder Shiores could attack for 5, he could attack for 6. All she's going to be able to do is not even kill Tactical Squad Cardenas. We've got 2 Psychers to this planet, so both of those Psychers are going to end up getting a +1 attack value, well, sorry, a +1 hit point bonus while she's at that planet, but if she's bloodied, those hit points disappear, just like when that Incubus Warrior died. As soon as she's not on the planet, those hit points are gone, and considering the Warlock Destructor and Inquisitor Caius Roth are both exhausted, the Tactical Squad Cardenas could definitely make short work of them. But let's see how everything is going to break down. We've got just a couple Empowers, an Archon's Terror, a Gift of Isha sitting in our Eldar player's hand. The Empower might actually end up being relatively useful. I'm sure both of our players are feverishly doing combat math at the moment. In assessing Travis's hand, he's got his own signature support, the Communications Relay, which is potentially fantastic in disallowing a card effect like Archon's Terror from banishing one of his non-unique units, unless Guy happens to play 2 of those during the same game round. And he's just got more area effect, he's got mobile command units, so just a wealth of options here afforded to Commander Shadowsun. And what exactly is Guy going to be able to do? Certainly, like I mentioned before, I think there's so many warriors, there's so many psychers that still need to come out between now and Planetfall Cycle Warpack 6, with which to, make Talyesin competitive. But kind of as is, I see her being similar to Colonel Strachan in a way. Like, she augments all the units at her location, but she has to be present at that planet in order to give them a bonus ability. And it seems a little bit silly to increase the hit points of other units when you yourself are only a 2/6. She's got a signature attachment, the Autarch Power Sword, which can make her a 3/7, but even that isn't very formidable, and even unlike Strachan, she doesn't have an equivalent, like a defensive event along the same lines of Glorious Intervention, and Archon's Terror here is going to do absolutely nothing against a unique unit. But Guy is currently bogged down in mental mathematics, and let's see how this combat is going to resolve. Okay, it looks as though Guy is deciding that he doesn't have any actions prior to combat, and now what is he going to do? Is he going to retreat, or is he going to try to toss a couple points of damage onto one of these units? We could see Empower used to basically boost Talyesin to an attack value of 3, which could threaten to kill off our Pathfinder, And, you know, Travis has got 6 cards in hand. He does actually have 1 shield card, which I almost overlooked. I was going to say that the probability of him not having a shield card is going to be incredibly low. Unfortunately, there's not enough available resources for Taliesin to end up doing like 2 empowers. I'm not sure if that would frankly be worth it, but I suppose let's just kind of see how things go here. It looks as though neither of our players actually captured our first planet this round, and Taliesin is going to end up exhausted. Will she be doing so to retreat? She does indeed retreat, and that means there's going to be a considerable bit of damage potentially dealt out to the Inquisitor and the Warlock Destructor here. Either Pathfinder is going to basically give up one of his attachments in order to get off an attack. Okay, looks like the tactical squad is going to gain the benefit of gun drones, and will we see that Archon's Terror or not? This is going to be Area Effect 3 dealt out to these units, and there we go. We're going to see that copy of Archon's Terror to the rescue, banishing the tactical squad Cardenas from that planet. So that was a couple of resources invested by Guy, just 1 resource invested by Travis, and of course, the tactical squad Cardenas here is going to be able to show up at whatever planet he's subsequently sent to, and for all I know, we could see a copy of For the Tau Va afford him the opportunity to do an area effect volley, you know, just immediately if initiative happens to be in the possession of our Tau faction player. But Pathfinder Shio Race ditches his copy of the Ion Rifle. He's going to be attacking for 5 against Inquisitor Caius Roth. Inquisitor Caius Roth, of course, doesn't have the bonus hit point conferred by Taliesin at this point, and that's going to be a copy of Empower, which would have saved Inquisitor's life, but we see no mercy used. Commander Shadowsun is exhausted, and that's going to be basically canceling out the effect of that shield card, so Inquisitor Caius Roth is going to be outright destroyed. And at that point, that's going to bring us to the end of the combat round here. As soon as the recon drone attacks, the Warlock Destructor, I would imagine, is going to end up retreating. Even though it will have the initiative, it's only going to be able to attack for 3, so maybe the Destructor will retreat, but then Taliesin is going to have to pay for it during her next deploy phase. So I think it probably wouldn't be out of the question to... yeah, it looks like Guy is going to stay, and we see the Warlock Destructor is going to be able to take a swing at Pathfinder Shio Race. We see Commander Shadowsun retreats at the end of combat. Pathfinder's, well, basically... Well, I guess this is actually kind of an interesting little predicament here. So... the Pathfinder is going to have the opportunity to attack. We could see Empower discarded as shields so that the Warlock Destructor only takes 3 points of damage. Let's see. Okay, so the Warlock Destructor actually exhausts to take a swing, and I happen to totally forget about the existence of these Taliesin spiders here. This definitely makes things a little bit less complicated than I was assuming they would be. I was anticipating something like an Empower to drop that attack value to 3, and then it could attack again. You could use the Gift of Isha, but basically the Warlock Destructor ends up taking a swing for 3. Pathfinder She or Race, him or herself, is going to take a swing for 5 at the Warlock Destructor. Will we see Empower discarded or not? So that is going to be a grand total of 5 points of damage. The spiders themselves are going to be able to attack for 2, and there's no longer any shield cards that our player Travis can use to resist Taliesin spiders here. So this is very interesting that we've seen Empower used as shields just to preserve the Warlock Destructor here, because that's going to be another shield card, and that I can only imagine will mean an additional resource used just to keep them in play. Perhaps, you know, Guy was thinking that Travis had shield cards in his hand that he frankly doesn't have, but at the end of combat, we're going to see the recon drones retreat. That's going to be Taliesin spiders able to basically win the battle at that planet, and that's going to be a random card discard, which ended up being a copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas. So here we go, we're going to see Glaiveguy triggering Wisdom of the Serpent, and let's see what exactly he's going to choose. Will he pick Warrior or Psyker? He's certainly got kind of a fair variety of both in play at the moment. Statistically, I would imagine that his deck is going to be rather full of Warriors relative to Psykers. I can only imagine we'll see many, many more Psykers come out by Warpack 6, and indeed Guy calls out Warriors, so some of his options are going to be the Taliesin Spiders. He could have something like the Eldritch Corsair in his deck, and just a variety of different others. He ended up coming across a third copy of Bealtan Guardians, which could be absolutely fantastic in helping him win some commands. So I'll be very curious to see how this all breaks down. During our HQ phase, we see Pharenal as our new 5th and final planet. That's going to be 2 cards and 4 resources for both of our players. It looks as though perhaps Guy whiffed in regard to his signature support. His 2 cards that he drew are another copy of the incredibly useful and powerful Warlock Destructor, which is going to be great to help him potentially win at the first planet here, fuel his victory condition, and he's also got a copy of Nullify should he need to get rid of some for the Tau Va or something like that. The initiative token is once again in our Tau player's hand. Commander Shadowsun kind of has a variety of different units in her HQ. She drew her 3rd copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas. She's got another copy of Pathfinder Shi'Orace that she could put into play. Certainly there's a glut of different attachments that Shadowsun could reaffix to that unit. Shadowsun Stealth Cadre, we've also got an Ion Rifle, so we're certainly not without options. And then there's also a Heavy Marker Drone that you can basically just stick on whatever formidable enemy army unit you need to contend with. If Taliesin ends up going to planet number 1, that's going to be the Warp Spiders here with 4 hit points and actually 3 attack values. So right now we've got a Psyker and a Warrior at the first planet, and I could definitely see Taliesin going to that planet if we see opposition played there, but instead it looks as though Travis is going to try to block off his opponent's victory condition by sending the Pathfinder to Taurus. And then I can only imagine that Commander Shadowsun herself is probably also going to go to that planet to affix an attachment to the Pathfinder so that she'll have initiative, she'll be able to attack for 5 with Pathfinder, and then she could basically discard, say, a Shadowsun Stealth Cadre, that's where that 5 attack value came from, and attack again for 3. So a mountain of damage that she could potentially deal out. Taliesin is not going to be able to repel firepower of that magnitude. Looks as though Guy has passed. In assessing his discard pile, he still doesn't have any eligible Eldar units with which to do Gift of Isha, and interestingly, Glaiveguy has chosen not to play that Warlock Destructor, so I can only imagine that he's going to basically forego a victory at planet number 2 and then maybe hope to best Commander Shadowsun during the following round at that planet. So Commander Shadowsun, to no one's surprise, ends up going to planet number 2, and definitely a very wise move here. We see Taliesin is going to end up going to planet number 5, so that's going to be affording her the opportunity to either rout Tactical Squad Cardenas or the Pathfinder Shi'Orace. But that's going to be command 1 at 4 different planets, and importantly note that the communications relay, the signature support, is now sitting in play. It's going to be able to basically cancel the effects of any kind of ability that targets a unit that has attachments. Guy is going to reel in a total of 4 cards and 3 resources, and that's just a 1 card, 1 resource for Travis. He did get another copy of Gun Drone, so that is incredible that in the top 19 cards of his deck, he's seen all of his Gun Drones and all of his Tactical Squad Cardenases, so that to me just seems absolutely ridiculous here. But upon, doing the planet committance thing, doing things ever so slightly out of order here on Octagon, Commander Shadowsun triggers her reaction to affix a copy of Shadowsun Stealth Cadre, to no one's surprise, to Pathfinder Shi'Orace. But let's see how combat is going to break down. Looks as though the first planet is going to go entirely uncontested, and that's going to be a random card discarded from Travis's hand. That's going to be a second green strong point icon for our basically our Eldar player, and then we could see our Eldar player forego Taurus and then try to win at Iridial. And I'll just be curious to see how exactly things end up going for him. But Barlas ends up being triggered, and that is a copy of Gun Drones discarded, so that is just incredibly fortunate. And in assessing Guy's hand, he's got 8 resources relative to Travis's 1. He's got a wealth of powerful different cards in hand. These 2 copies of Warlock Destructor are going to be able to shore up Iridial just without really too much effort at all. And Travis is yet to actually walk away with any planet-type icons because of Elowith just disappearing into the void previously. But Taurus is going to all but certainly be won, of course, by Commander Shadowsun. Looks like there's a whopping 6 units in play for Talyesin, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Commander Shadowsun, so the Bealtan Guardians are going to be destroyed. That means that our unit count is 6 versus 5 in the favor of not activating Taurus's battle ability. So hopefully Commander Shadowsun enjoyed her victory there, because now it's going to be Glaiveguy's opportunity to just plant a wealth of different units here at Iridial, and he's even got a Nullify with which to block something like a For the Tau Va for just proving to be an absolute nightmare. So Taliesin is going to have the opportunity to rout a unit. Note that that is a planet. Let's see here. He's not going to be able to trigger Farron's ability. Yeah, so this is kind of a bit of a crappy thing here. Farron is, if he chose to target Tactical Squad Cardenas, that's going to be the communications relay basically blocking that effect. So the Tactical Squad is going to sit there at Taurus because that's signature support, just super, super handy. But we enter a new HQ phase that's going to be 4 resources and 2 cards for each of our players. Not only that, but we also see Wisdom of the Serpent exhaust a second time. Psyker is going to be called out, and let's see if Guy ends up pulling one. It looks as though glaiveguy was not so fortunate as to find one. He could have drawn a copy of Prophetic Farseer, which is our Decree of Ruin Eldar faction Psyker, which could have been a fantastic opportunity to just whittle away some of his opponent's shield cards. But looks like 2 new warriors enter Guy's hand. That's going to be a second copy of Taliesin Spiders, which would be also great, put out to planet number 2. And for Travis, he got a copy of Viorla Marksman and a Recon Drones. So I'll be very curious to see if there's anything at all that our Tau player can do to try to win this game. I can only imagine it's going to involve playing a Tactical Squad Cardenas at planet number 2 and just trying to get as much use out of area effect as possible. Note that Taliesin Spiders being put out to planet number 4 here is going to afford it to likely end up winning command, and then when it all comes down to this decisive battle at Iridial, at least I presume that's how the game is going to end, you'll be able to basically relocate these spiders upon the attack of a Psyker. So, Vashia Trailblazer ends up at planet number 2, Promotion ends up at also planet number 2, and that's going to be 4 command icons in favor of Taliesin up against Commander Shadowsun's meager 3, and that Void Pirate is not going to be able to generate much of a card bonus in the face of superior command icons. So it's presently 10 resources, 7 cards relative to 3 resources and 4 cards. It's Travis's opportunity to take a deploy turn. We've got this Recon Drone, which could easily trump Taliesin Spiders. It could break even with Aatrox Prime. And I'll just be curious to see how things break down here. We've still got a copy of Gift of Isha. Currently, the Bealtan Guardians is going to be the topmost Eldar card in that discard pile. And certainly for Guy's sake, it'll, well, hopefully be something more along the lines of a Warlock Destructor when it comes down to a battle at this planet. Viorla Marksman ends up being put out to Aatrox Prime, which is a very curious choice indeed. And I can't really imagine what exactly... I guess we're just going to see a Recon Drones put out to that planet as well. which is definitely a curious choice. Granted, cards are incredibly important, but nice thing about, say, putting a recon drones to Pharin is that if the Taliesin spiders were to shift away during this turn's combat phase, the recon drone would be entirely uncontested during the following round. But in any case, it's back to Guy. He's got a Slith Mercenary, which could be quite useful in just making sure that Travis is completely, blocked. That difference of 8 resources could be incredibly useful in just making sure that you've got every little drop of economic advantage possible. But what will Taliesin do? It's Guy's opportunity to deploy. Okay, so we see that copy of the Slith Mercenary, and where is that going to go? I am not terribly surprised to see it end up going to planet number 2 to help shore up against that Void Pirate. That's going to be a total of 6 command icons at planet number 2, and there we go. We see that copy of the Recon drones put out to planet number 3. So that's going to allow them to trump the Bealtan Guardians, and we could therefore see something like an Incubus Warrior put into play just to ensure that command is won at that planet, but there's still this Tactical Squad Cardenas, but I cannot imagine putting this further down the line than Iridial, because that seems like that Area Effect 1 could just be of paramount importance, and considering we're likely to see quite a few units at this planet number 2, it's a bit of a shame that 2 copies of Empower happen to be sitting in our Eldar players' discard pile, but Guy decides to pass, and now it's going to be Travis's opportunity to use his last couple of resources. Heavy Marker Drone would be free, but there's not any fantastic target for it at the moment. I can only imagine that Taliesin is either going to go to planet number 2, or I could also see, actually, I am going to assume that Taliesin is going to end up going to Aatrox Prime, just because triggering that battle ability and hitting all of these different units that are going to be filling Commander Shadowsun's HQ could be just incredibly useful here. And then the Slith Mercenaries and the Bealtan Guardians here have got a combined total of 6 command icons. The Tactical Squad and all these dudes only have a combined total of 4. I don't see Commander Shadowsun going to Iridial, but it is entirely possible. If that does happen, there's not going to be any opportunity to do Psyker relocation, so perhaps Commander Shadowsun is going to actually kind of capitalize upon this opportunity to pick apart the opponent while he's maybe a little bit vulnerable at Iridial. I think Taliesin could conservatively go to Iridial, or, be a little bit risky and end up going to planet number 3. It looks like I was wrong, so this is going to be Taliesin going to planet number, 4, our final planets, and Commander Shadowsun ends up touching down on Aatrox Prime. So Shadowsun doesn't bring any units with her, but Aatrox Prime is going to be able to shoot Iridial or shoot Pharin here. So, Commander Shadowsun affixes an ion rifle to the Viorla Marksman that's going to allow it to handily destroy the Bealtan Guardians here, and that's going to be Command 1 at 2 different planets by both of our players. Note that that Void Pirate is not going to be able to do anything, so that's going to be a grand total of 2 cards and 2 resources for Travis, and a single card and 2 resources for Guy. That's going to be another couple copies of Earthcast Technician, which could be quite useful for the following turn. Typically, this card is a little bit more useful if you haven't already drawn all 3 copies of your gun drones, but you could still end up fetching additional heavy marker drones for shields. Taurus is going to be won by Travis. That's going to be 1 red and 1 green icon for him. There's no triggering by Taurus because his unit count is too high. Certainly, glaiveguy is waiting until this upcoming round to fill the table with his units, and now we're also going to see a battle break out at Aatrox Prime. So that's going to be the Viorla Marksman blowing the Bealtan Guardians apart, and there's not going to be any convenient opportunity for something like a Gift of Isha to recur a Warlock Destructor in play, and now that means that this Viorla Marksman is going to be essentially stranded at this planet. Theron is going to be won entirely uncontested here by Taliesin, and that means that the Tactical Squad Cardenas, I can only imagine, is going to be the only target to get, kicked from that planet. Because everything else would just be blocked by communications relay. So Aatrox Prime is going to take a shot at Iridial. That strikes me as a very interesting choice. So the Bealtan Guardians is going to be destroyed. The Slith Mercenary is going to take 1 point of damage. I cannot for the life of me understand why Theron was not targeted. That would have been potentially 1 point of damage to each of these Taliesin spiders, which count as a warrior. They feed perfectly into Taliesin's synergy here, and that also would have been a point of damage to Taliesin herself. So very strange move there on part of Travis, but the Tactical Squad Cardenas, as I assumed, is going to be routed, and this is presumably going to be the third, well, it's definitely going to be the third, but potentially final time that we see Wisdom of the Serpent activated. We call out Psyker, because certainly we've got a wealth of warriors that are going to be able to shift into that planet, to help out at Iridial. Once a Warlock Destructor takes a swing, once a second Warlock Destructor takes a swing. We did end up seeing a copy of Empower, which could be absolutely incredible play during that final combat, because there's likely going to be a wealth of Eldar units with which to benefit, and we actually end up seeing a Psyker. We see Spirit Seer Arathal put into play, put into Guy's hand, and sitting alongside a warrior, sitting alongside Taliesin, that's going to be basically a 3-4 unit, and with the assistance of Empower, it's going to be a 4-5 that pulls damage off units when it has the opportunity to attack. So Taliesin bounces back, of course, at the end of the combat round into her HQ, and this is potentially going to be the final battle of the game. So, Autarch Salakia is going to be drawn here by Guy. He's got 15 resources going into the final round here. We see a Swordwind Farseer, which could allow him to tutor for any card that he'd like. That's a Psyker. Autarch Salakia is a warrior, and all of these are different nullify options, like Spirit Seer, Autarch, Taliesin. I can only imagine that Taliesin may end up being bloodied, but I'll be curious how things develop nevertheless. We certainly see a tremendous amount of shield cards sitting here in the hand of Travis. It's going to be 2 heavy marker drones, a deception. We've got, what do we have in regard to attachments in the discard pile? We do not have anything, so that's kind of going to stink, because Pathfinder Shio Race is going to be arriving to that planet exhausted, and unless Travis ends up drawing something during the, I was going to say during the command phase, and can then use Ambush Platform to put it back on the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder's only going to be able to attack for a meager 3. Travis puts out an Earthcast Technician to planet number 3, and Travis is not actually going to end up pulling anything, so no drones, no attachments in those top 6 cards, but he will have the opportunity to actually, he does not shuffle his deck. He just puts them at the bottom. So it means that he could potentially end up pulling some valuable attachments if he earns anything in the command phase. And I can only imagine he'll get something from planet number 2 here. But his Void Pirate, unfortunately, is going to be stranded at planet number 1, and if this Swordwind Farseer is anything to judge by, I can only imagine that we're going to see a tremendous number of just units played out by Guy to planet number 1. He's still got 12 resources with which to dump units onto the table. And we end up seeing a copy of the Slith Mercenaries as the chosen card for him to tutor for. This is going to be another copy of the Earthcast Technician put out to planet number 1. This Tau player is going to show up with a tremendous number of different units. This gun drones laden Tactical Squad Cardenas is going to be destroyed by just any and all means possible. Of course, Commander Shadowsun is going to want to hope and pray for a copy of For the Tau Va, but that is going to get nullified like nobody's business, so I think at this point it's going to be up to Guy to simply play out a sufficient number of units to pick apart this Area Effect 3 Tactical Squad Cardenas, kill the Area Effect 1 Tactical Squad Cardenas, and then the rest of it is hopefully going to be downhill for him from there. So, Warlock Destructor touches down on planet number 1. That's going to be a grand total of 4 command icons sitting at that planet, and that means he's already able to break even with his opponent. We see a copy of Ion Rifle deployed for free to Pathfinder She or Race, and I must have somehow missed... okay, so he must have pulled that when he did his second copy of the Earthcast Technician, so that's basically going to allow the Pathfinder there to be one of the more dangerous units at that planet, because it can either attack for 6 or 5, depending on which attachment it throws away in order to ready itself. And that's going to be a significant threat in regard to potentially bloodying Taliesin here. And note that the initiative token is going to be in the hands of our Tau player. But definitely Empower could boost Taliesin to 4 remaining hit points. Gift of Isha could subtract 2 points of damage, so that would have to be an attack worth 6. And that means that if, say, Travis were to do like he'd done previously and pitch the Ion Rifle instead of Shadowsun Stealth Cadre in order to ready the Pathfinder, he'll not be able to bloody Taliesin. And certainly it's going to make a tremendous bit of difference if he can manage to bloody her. But let's see how things are going to break down. Guy's got 2 Warlock Destructors in play at that first planet, so he's got a Warrior, namely the Slith Mercenaries. He's also got 2 Psychers, but importantly, initiative is going to be in the hands of Travis. He's got heavy marker drones to deploy basically at will onto these Warlock Destructors. So there's still a whole hell of a lot that could go down. It's going to be just incredibly important to get rid of this Area Effect 3 unit. It looks like we see a copy of Deception, which is going to very interestingly be played on a return, target non-elite army unit, so that can be played on a friendly target. That's going to be the Viorla Marksman being returned to Travis's hand. So very interesting investment there. That's going to be a very expensive unit. Let's see. Once again, does he have anything in hand? He does have an Ion Rifle, and that could potentially allow him to shoot for 4. He'll, do the Viorla Marksman at this planet. He'll affix the Ion Rifle to it with Commander Shadowsun, and then he can sprinkle enough heavy marker drones potentially on other targets to maybe end up coming ahead. But let's see, what can our Eldar player do to respond? Spirit Seer Aerithal goes to that planet. I can only imagine that Taliesin is going to want to show up at the planet. Even though she's going to be bloodied, she'll at least be one hit that she can take for the opposition, just to be as many bodies as possible. We do see that Viorla Marksman played. That's going to be 1 resource left for Travis, but each of those heavy marker drones are going to be able to be played for a whopping 0. We see a Slith Mercenaries put down to that planet as well. And now let's kind of see how things break down. Has Travis yet to pass? He has not. We could easily see those heavy marker drones. I think 1 apiece put onto the Warlock Destructors would definitely not be the worst idea. But I could also see playing one of those onto the Spirit Seer Aerithal as well. And then I'll just be curious to see if we maybe see Autarch Salakia put into play or just have Empower used. I can only imagine that we'll be seeing this Empower, but there are certainly multiple options. Travis is passed, and that means that glaiveguy is going to end up putting out a copy of the Incubus Warrior. And let's see, so he's now got the 2 Slith Mercs. He's got an Incubus Warrior at that planet. There's not going to be any enemy area effect, and both of our players are deciding where exactly to send their warlords. So if I was Guy, I would show up at planet number 1. I guess you could conceivably go to planet number 2 just to get an additional card, an additional resource. But both of our players do decide to go to planet number 1. That's going to be command at planet number 1, and planet number 3, won by Guy. That's going to be a whopping 1 card and 2 resources pulled in by him. I wonder if actually Guy's not running any Rogue Traders or Void Pirates in his deck. So this is going to be just an absolutely enormous battle breaking out at this planet. But let's see what our players come across. I think it's going to just be critically important that, we see just incredibly high-value picks when it comes to what you're wanting to destroy. Pathfinder could potentially threaten to kill a Warlock Destructor. The Viorla Marksman receives this Ion Rifle. Yep, there we go. That's going to be a ranged attack of 4, which is not going to be able to kill a Warlock Destructor. Oh, wow. So we actually see a very timely pull of a No Mercy, and the earlier that Taliesin is going to be bloodied, the better. We also happen to see a copy of No Mercy drawn by our Eldar players. So we've got this Empower, we've got 4 resources, so it's either going to be the Empower or the Gift of Isha, but not both. And I can only imagine we'll end up seeing the Empower. The Ambush platform is only going to be able to allow for the mid-combat deployment of 1 attachment, so that'll be a single heavy marker drone. But let's see here. This is going to be combat breaking out at planet number 1. We've got 1 ranged attacker, which is going to be shooting for 4. It's going to be potentially able to bloody Taliesin, but instead it attacks the Incubus Warrior, which is actually currently all Psyker and Warrior units at this planet are getting +1 HP and +1 attack value. So a 4 attack value unit is now destroyed. The initiative is going to be in the hands of Commander Shadowsun. Will we see Pathfinder She Orace try to bloody Taliesin? How exactly is combat going to break down? All right, so Pathfinder She Orace is going to end up discarding that copy of Ion Rifle. It's going to have the opportunity to attack for 5, and that means that with a 2 shield icon card, Taliesin could survive a swing from this attack, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see. We could see Empower used as shields, or we can instead see that Gift of Isha. But what is our Pathfinder going to take a swing at? He himself is only going to be able to attack for 5. There's not too much in the way of shield icon cards in our Tau player's hand. I mean, he's got 2 heavy marker drones, but there's certainly a lot of outgoing attack power that could make that very difficult to resist. We actually see Empower played conventionally, so that's going to be +1 attack and +1 HP for each of these existing units, in addition to the bonus that Taliesin herself is granting. So we're going to see, basically a guy running out of shield cards pretty quickly here, but how is this going to go? At present, either of these Warlock Destructors are going to be able to attack for 5. That means we could see Pathfinder She Orace killed in a single swing, thanks to the assistance of a No Mercy here, or we could see, something nasty happen to Commander Shadowsun, but that's going to be a 5-value attack going out to Taliesin. And we could see actually a Nullified discarded as shield, so it's a damn shame that Guy doesn't have a single additional resource, but he's going to be able to potentially kill off that big formidable unit, and hopefully he'll force his opponent to use a 2-value shield card. So there we go. Gift of Isha means that Taliesin's only going to take 3 points of damage, so she's currently got a total of 2 hit points remaining thanks to Empower. And now it's going to be Guy's opportunity to attack. So let's see these Warlock Destructors potentially kill off Pathfinder She Orace. I think that would be definitely a decent use for one of these guys, just because if you exhaust Taliesin to fund a No Mercy, she's likely going to be bloodied very soon anyways. So I see that as being an acceptable bit of risk, but all the same, we could also have Taliesin take a swing for 3 herself, and certainly there's just a wealth of different targets here. But this is going to be, I forgot about Spirit Seer Aerithal, so Spirit Seer Aerithal is going to end up taking a swing. He's going to be able to remove 1 point of damage from any target unit at his planet, and that can only be Taliesin. So my mistake that I happened to forget about that damage removal ability, and that's going to be both of the Taliesin spiders relocated to planet number 1. And that's also going to be a 4 attack value swing, basically directed at the tactical squad. So that's going to be a copy of the heavy marker drones discarded as shields. And that is just going to be absolutely incredible. But there we go. We see a copy of No Mercy used. That's going to be that heavy marker drone completely ignored. And that's going to be the copy of Tactical Squad Cardenas with the associated gun drones that's going to be completely destroyed. And Guy laments there that he basically wasted a copy of No Mercy because Taliesin herself, of course, had a 3 attack value, but let's see how the remainder of combat is going to break down. In regard to our Tau players' options, we see this ambush platform used. That is going to put a copy of, that is actually an ineligible target. Enemy unit only. So, unfortunately, that's not going to be able to be used. The heavy marker drone strictly has to be attached to an enemy unit, and I think what Travis was maybe considering doing was wanting to use the Pathfinder again to ready itself. Its ability is limit once per phase, but in the heat of the moment, it seems as though that was forgotten. So once again, I sincerely apologize for a few different mistakes on our player's part and on my part throughout the course of this video. I happen to forget about these Taliesin spiders. I happen to forget about Spirit Seer Erithal contributing to healing Taliesin, but in any case, it looks as though we're going to see this heavy marker drone affixed to an enemy unit. It is going to be Travis's opportunity to attack, so I can only imagine that he's going to be taking a swing at whichever of these Warlock Destructors the heavy marker drone ends up being affixed to, or whatever army unit it happens to be. So we're currently waiting on Travis to call out his target. His strongest ready attacker has an attack value of 1. He's actually got 3 such units. Taliesin Spiders are both going to be attacking for 4. The Warlock Destructors are going to be attacking for 5. The Slith Mercenaries are attacking for 3 because they're not an Eldar unit. And the Swordwind Farseer is also going to be attacking for 4. So let's see what target. All right, so it looks as though our heavy marker drone has finally stopped moving, affixed to this Warlock Destructor, and that's going to be this copy of the Earthcast Technician taking a swing at the Slith Mercenary. So that copy of Slith Mercenary takes 1 point of damage, but it does happen to receive 1 bonus hit point here from Taliesin. So now it's going to be our Eldar player's opportunity to attack. He's got multiple units that can attack for 5 damage. So let's see what his most desirable targets are. Certainly Commander Shadowsun would be a desirable option. No Mercy is going to be able to save her from being bloodied, or we could just get rid of the Vashia Trailblazer. But let's see how this breaks down. Looks as though both of our players have decided that they're going to be good sports, and just for the sake of giving Taliesin a little bit of a workout, we're going to end up resolving this combat. So the Warlock Destructors actually deciding to start picking apart some of the exhausted units. That's going to be Pathfinder She or Race facing an attack valued at 5. Unless we see No Mercy discarded as shields, then that's going to basically destroy the Pathfinders, so it's outright destroyed, and now it's going to be Travis's turn once again to attack. So it's either the Vashia Trailblazer or Commander Shadowsun. There we go, the Vashia Trailblazer takes a swing at the Slith Mercenaries. It's a damn bit of a shame that it didn't have the opportunity to attack prior to being threatened to be destroyed, but it doesn't really matter too much. We see Nullify discarded as shields, but just for fun, we see Commander Shadowsun exhaustees and No Mercy to end up killing off that copy of the Slith Mercenaries. So now it's going to be no cards remaining in hand for Travis, and now the resolution of this battle is going to be abundantly clear. So it's going to be all up to our Eldar player to just go nuts at this point. That's going to be the Slith Mercenaries attacking for 3 to kill off the Viorla Marksman. Now it's going to be a 4 attack and a 5 attack target left, and then 2 additional 4 attack targets. So let's see how exactly this ends up being broken down. So Paul Steiner in our chat indicates that Travis could, of course, purchase the Slith Mercenaries that is currently exhausting to swing. But let's see how this ends up being resolved. Okay, so there we go. That unit is going to be destroyed, and that's going to be an ion rifle-laden Viorla Marksman added to Travis's discard pile. All Travis has left is going to be a copy of the Void Pirate, and now it's going to be up to Guy to just take a swing and kind of pick apart the remaining enemy forces here. He could go for a guaranteed bloodying of Commander Shadowsun, he could kill the Tactical Squad Cardenas, and at this point it's basically just going to be up to our players to end up resolving this game here. So it looks as though the Void Pirate is having a little bit of difficulty in deciding what target it wants to commit to, and that's going to be an attack valued at 0, and there you go. Thank you very much, glaiveguy, for reading my mind. Finally, our players call out the GG, so very good game, very well played by both of our players. Congratulations to glaiveguy for piloting Talyesin Fharenal, our 6th war pack of the Planetfall cycle Eldar faction Warlord. That was a pretty fantastic game, certainly a wealth of tragic mistakes made on my part, made by our players, but of course thank you so much for watching, and very well played of course by Travis, so a thank you to him for affording me the opportunity to record this game. Congratulations again to Guy, and thank you as always for watching this video. But if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, as ever you're always encouraged to share this content, as the more likes, the more views these videos receive, the more subscriptions my channel incurs, all the more likely people are to stumble upon these videos, be exposed to Conquest, give the game a try, and potentially join our community. And of course, all together, we continue to send the message to Fantasy Flight Games to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, I'd encourage you to do so through Facebook or on Twitter, and if you ever feel so inclined to help donate to support the Hive Tyrant's cause, I'd be absolutely honored were you to contribute to my Patreon. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for ever more Conquest LCG content to come.